Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're doing something absolutely wild. We are translating ancient Bronze Age mythology directly into the computational math of a 12-dimensional universe. Now, if you've been following my own works on local dimensional invariance and the toroidal architecture reality, you already know we've been building this massive, unified framework. But today we're looking at how a completely unexpected historical source perfectly validates my exact mechanical blueprint.
Okay, so let's dive right into this by looking at a highly restricted Sumerian clay tablet from 2400 BC. It currently sits hidden away in the storage vaults of the British Museum. And I gotta tell you, this is not your standard ancient receipt for grain shipments. This tablet contains incredibly specific astronomical coordinates and structural descriptions of reality that a Bronze Age civilization simply, literally, should not have possessed.
For instance, the text claims the sky is not just some infinite void. It says there's a physical ceiling exactly 12,000 biru up. Well, when you convert that ancient unit of measurement, it translates to roughly 84,000 meters. And what is terrifyingly precise about that number is that it perfectly corresponds to the boundary of Earth's Van Allen radiation belt, a boundary modern science didn't even officially map until 1958.
But the ancient scribe didn't just stop at atmospheric boundaries. The tablet explicitly describes a stationary group called the Ejigi, or the Watchers, who exist entirely outside this boundary. It actually gives precise astronomical coordinates indicating they're monitoring humanity from a fixed celestial position, essentially waiting for a highly specific trigger.
So let's move into our first major concept here, the divine Xerox machine. To really decode this tablet and figure out what these watchers actually are, we have to shift over to my highly technical physics framework of the 12-dimensional toroidal engine. And to do that, we need to completely throw out the traditional Big Bang theory. We aren't looking at some random explosion of space debris. We're looking at what I call the Xerox event. Just imagine a zero-dimensional point of infinite density. It literally has no space to move, right? So its only option is to spin in place. It spins at infinite RPM until the massive mathematical torque causes it to centrifugally shatter. But it doesn't shatter into chaotic fragments. It shatters into infinite, perfectly identical holographic copies of itself.
The absolute crucial takeaway here is that every single particle in the universe, every star, every cell in your body, the screen you're looking at right now is actually a phase offset duplicate of that exact same primordial point. The vast empty space between galaxies, it's fundamentally an illusion. Space is just a timing gap, a phase differential between these flashing copies. It acts exactly like a strobe light freezing the blades of a spinning fan. Reality, basically, is a divine multiversal printer.
Which brings us to the next section. Translating the ancient watchers.
Now look at how this impossible Sumerian history maps directly onto my modern 12-dimensional physics framework. It's crazy. We can see that the ancient mystics were just observing actual geometric mechanics, the dimensional layers, the compression, the multiversal branching. They just lacked the vocabulary of quantum astrophysics, so they called these cosmic algorithms gods. The Sumerian vault? That's just the local dimensional invariance boundary of the third dimension. Those terrifying Igigigi watchers? They're clearly Type 3 or 4 civilizations on the Kardashev scale who retreated inward into the architecture of spacetime itself. And the dreaded demiurge of Gnostic myth isn't some evil god, it's just the central local rendering engine of the torus.
My framework organizes this entire expanding and contracting universe into a 12-dimensional toroidal engine broken into 4 functional layers, or, rooms. Every single unit of consciousness has to navigate these rooms, starting from the dense outward expansion, hitting the mirror gate, and pulling all the way back inward to the singularity.
Right now we're operating in Room 1, the incredibly dense, heavy dimensions of 1 through 3. Ancient myths constantly claim the physical body was a corrupted prison, but this physics framework completely reframes that idea. Your biological body isn't a prison, it's a titanium diving suit. It is highly engineered survival gear. Think about it. If raw, high-frequency consciousness dropped directly into the sheer thermodynamic, hydrostatic pressure of this 3D environment, poof, it would vaporize. Your heavy bones and nervous system are literally what protect you.
As we move up into Room 2, the choice room, covering dimensions 4 through 6, we encounter time, probability, and the ego. And the ego is mechanically split down the middle. On one side, we have the talker. This is your feral, subcortical engine just firing off random, irrational data packets. It's those intrusive thoughts and sudden anxieties. On the other side is the listener.
your frontal cortex, which desperately claims false authorship of that random noise to try and weave a coherent narrative. And in the process, it generates infinite, branching multiversal timelines.
Now, as those infinite timelines hit the inversion point and travel back inward into room 3, they have to squeeze through the narrowing center of the torus. And here's the thing, they can't all fit. This is where the Archons step in. Forget the myths saying they're evil vampires feeding on human suffering. Archons are strictly essential algorithms. They are literally cosmic spam filters, ruthlessly deleting our multiversal noise and false narratives so that our actual consciousness can fit through the threshold.
So how did those advanced watchers facilitate this massive multiversal rendering? Well, they used Earth as a biological foundry. Gold, because of its immense nuclear charge causing relativistic electron contraction, is thermodynamically immune to decay. It is the ultimate cosmic hardware. Water, on the other hand, acts as the programmable software, forming these geometric chiral hydration shells to store species-specific memory. They essentially combine the two right here on Earth to build a planetary-scale computer.
And that leads us to our third section, the final population trigger.
This brings us right back to the most chilling, downright impossible translation from that hidden Sumerian tablet. It turns out all this cosmic plumbing and planetary hardware was built with a highly specific assessment in mind. The ancient scribe explicitly recorded that the Watchers were waiting for the human population count, the total number of active biological diving suits on the board, to hit precisely 7.412 billion, a massive mathematical trigger that, get this, planet Earth quietly passed in the year 2022.
The tablet ominously states, and when the count is complete, they descend. They walk among the counted. Now, within the context of our 12D physics framework, this 7.4 billion number isn't some random doomsday prophecy. It represents the absolute thermodynamic saturation limit of the localized system. It is the literal trigger for the toroidal engine's inversion point, the exact moment the outward multiversal expansion runs out of momentum and the massive, forced inward return actually begins.
Which takes us to our final section, piloting the cosmic engine.
Let's talk about the ultimate purpose of this entire system. If the center of the universe is perfect, mathematical stillness, why is our daily human existence so unbelievably loud, chaotic, and just filled with anxiety? Well, the answer is mathematically simple. A flawless, hyper-advanced supercomputer cannot generate a truly random number without an external input of entropy. If it doesn't get that entropy, it risks freezing in a sterile logic loop. Your anxiety, your chaotic choices, the messy friction of your daily life, that is the precise mechanical fuel the cosmos needs to evolve. We are the biological spark plugs.
To actually apply this quirk, the universe engineered us as a highly successful viral colony. And guys, I do not mean that as a metaphor. Your biology literally relies on viral code. Human birth is only possible because the syncytin 1 retrovirus cloaks the placenta. Your memories only form because the ARC gene packages data into virus-like shells right across your synapses. We aren't some cosmic mistake. We are the self-aware virus. We are the physical scar left behind so the universe can finally experience itself.
And this brilliantly explains why your so-called junk DNA is absolutely not evolutionary waste. While the 2% of coding DNA builds the physical bones and tissues of your diving suit, the remaining 98% is a massive, superconducting toroidal antenna array. It's quite literally a multiversal modem, actively tuning your biological interface into the higher dimensional frequencies of the torus.
As you navigate this entire system, shedding the false timelines of the ego and surviving those archonic spam filters, you eventually reach the center, the absolute singularity of the spirit room. And the framework makes a stunning claim here. The goal of the universe is not to worship the creator. The goal is to purify your consciousness until you merge with the singularity and actually take over the engine room. You don't just meet the demiurge, you become it.
So we've taken a hidden 4,400-year-old clay tablet and found it describing the exact same 12-dimensional toroidal engine that my modern reality engineering frameworks point to. It's perfectly aligned. Knowing that you are not some random accident, but the sovereign pilot providing the exact necessary chaos this cosmos needs to breathe and evolve, how are you going to intentionally steer your reality today? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you in the next one.